Well, hi everybody. This is DearMamaSal, and welcome to this Soul Work Sunday.
I'm your assistant, here to help you throughout your day. Here are some things you can try saying to get started.
Just hold on one second. I've got my tablet busy talking to me. All right. So for those of you who are new to the broadcast, let me just explain how this works. You're going to, if you're watching it on the replay, you're going to see underneath two different times. One is 00 to a certain time where it says news, views, and updates. That's just while I give everybody a chance to get in, people that want to get in. And then from a certain other time, hi there, Jody, from the next time onwards, it'll say the topic. And today's topic is soul work. We do quotes and what it brings up for us. Hi, Linda. Good to see you. How's Lucky doing? And for those of you who don't know, Lucky is Linda's adorable border collie that I really just adore. He looks very much like a dog I once had. So there we go. In terms of news, I just wanted to make sure that, oh, by the way, I wanted to make sure that I welcome any ghosters here. That's people who may be watching but choose not to actually be part of the chat. We absolutely love that, and feel free to come into the chat if you want to. I will not, hi there. It's Andy, right? I will not mention your name unless, you want me to. But what I will do is I probably welcome you by name, but if you say anything, I probably will check with you first as to whether you want me to say it publicly or not. You have horrible news, Andy. I'm sorry to hear that. Linda, I am so sad to hear. Hi, Katie. I am so sorry to hear that devastating news for you. And for him, for Lucky, that he has cancer. I really don't know what to say to you, because I can imagine what you're going through. As you know, I can. I've had dogs with cancer, so. Andy, am I allowed to talk about that publicly? Just let me know. Because there's an issue there that I want you to understand from a very deep level. Yeah, okay, so Andy just wrote, my best friend since I was 12, and he's now 22, by the way, so best friend for 10 years, died of a heroin overdose. I worked for years trying to help him. Andy, you know now, as much as any of us who've had friends with major problems like this, that you cannot help somebody who doesn't want to be helped, right? They have to be ready to be helped, and you can do as much as you can, and you did your best. But this was a decision, that your friend made. I'm not sure if your friend was male or female. So this is a very sad Sunday on a number of levels. Okay, so yeah, your friend, Linda's son also lost somebody the same way. Yes, it just sucks. But here's the thing, Andy, you know this was not a happy being, all right? Because anybody who ends up on heavy drugs is not a happy person, all right? And so I know it sounds absolutely horrible because you're in such pain, but there's part of me that goes, they are not in pain anymore. They're not in that mental pain that they were in, and hopefully they are in a happier place for them. And I don't believe in a punishing God. So just so that you know that, I really don't believe in a punishing God. And what a sad thing to have happen. And, Linda, I have to say, in terms of Lucky, if I wished anybody to be around Lucky while he was going through cancer, it would be you. Yeah, but you have to understand, and he's saying, which is weird because he was such a happy, extremely witty and funny. And I don't know, I knew he would go this way when I warned him for years. Yes, exactly. You tried to warn him, and he already knew. He knew that, every time, I've got to say this, Andy, I've never been a drug addict other than cigarettes, but, and I gave those up, some years ago now, but, I think every time anybody who is injecting themselves takes any injection, they know that this could be the last one. And so, because you never know when you hit the bad one. And let me ask you, Andy, what help can we give you? What can we do to help you, honey? I'm going to be doing a couple of broadcasts coming up, Andy, just so that you know while you're typing. I'm going to be talking about what happened to me with the Kavanaugh hearings, because I am a Me Too person. And I struggled with this a great deal. As to whether or not I should talk about my experiences, or at least some of them. And I decided I want to do that because it may help somebody. And so on Friday, I'm going to do 2 broadcasts. One will be about what happened. And then the second one will be about how I coped with in more depth. And you guys asked me to talk about cognitive work. And so I want to talk to you about what I did to help myself dig out of post-traumatic stress. So, but the first thing I want to do is actually tell you how listening to the hearings actually triggered my post-traumatic stress. So it's not an easy thing for me to broadcast, but as I said, I really believe if it could help one person, that I need to do it. And by the way, if you see my eyes every now and then look a bit like a deer in the headlights, it's part of what's left over of the post-traumatic stress. I've noticed that I keep sort of having these little moments. And so you're probably going to see some body language from me that you don't recognize and you may be a bit concerned about, but don't be, I'm fine. I've actually, pretty good. Unfortunately, I ended up with flu and this at the same time, which is not good. So I'm trying to work out which part is the flu and which part is the, So Andy's saying that he realizes that nobody can help. It just is what it is, right? That's good that you can process it that way, Andy, but it still hurts, right? You're just sad, and most of all, disappointed. What are you disappointed in? Jody, I understand that your comment about that it's very courageous of me to talk about it, but I've talked about it many times. I have been to therapy and I have worked through a great deal of this. So it's not about talking about it for me, because I can talk about it pretty well, except it's not fun to talk about. But what I really had to work with, as you know, Jody, because I was talking to you about it, is, do I want to make this public? This could, do I want to talk about this publicly for the world? And I have to keep saying, if it helps one person, then yes. All right. So Andy's saying he could have done so much with his life. I'm so sad his book is closed. He could have done, all right? Now that's a guilt word, right? What he should have done, right? And what he could have done, if only he'd smartened up or whatever. But Andy, if he could, he would have done. You're right. I need you to get some compassion about this. All right. He didn't have the learning that you have. He didn't have the coping skills that you have. And he probably didn't mean to go, honey. right? He probably didn't know that the batch he got was a bad batch and he overdosed on it. I don't think, from what I know, not many people intentionally overdose. Right? And so therefore, does that make sense? So it wasn't necessarily his intent. It was the only way he knew to cope with his demons. So I have great compassion for him. The same way as I canceled both the broadcasts on Friday because I was not sure that I was in a place where I could talk to anybody without being very biased about the Kavanaugh hearings. And so therefore, because of my background, and the fact that I have the flu as well. And so what I needed to do was give myself time to settle so that I could talk about it. Linda, I am sorry to hear he may only have a week. You feel so helpless because you are, honey. All right, you are helpless. And so the thing that the thing that I have to say to you is just love him as much as you can and make his journey as easy as you can. I've been through this, so I'm feeling the emotion of it. All right, so Andy, what I want to say to you is that, give yourself the room to grieve. Have you been there when I've talked to you about the cycle of loss? And some of you have, and it's equally relevant to Linda as it is to Andy and anybody else who's going through a loss. Okay, so there was a very famous person, and I'm going to write it for you. Just hold on one second. Apparently, writing is not easy for me this week. Okay, I think that's how she spells her name. All right, a person called Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wrote about people dying. And what she said is, hi Lee, we're just talking about loss, just so that you know and don't get a surprise. All right, so here's what happens, Andy, and Linda will already be in this, because when you first heard it, did you have a reaction? Yes, the cycle of those emotions, right? The first one is denial. No, that can't be true, right? Did you, and Linda, when you heard that Lucky has cancer and maybe less than a week to live, I'm sure your instant reaction was, no, that can't be right. All right, that's denial. And we all have that moment where we go, wow. All right, and then the second one is, is anger. That's not fair, all right? Yeah, he was my friend, he was my brother, whatever. That's not fair. You get angry at God if you believe in God, or you get angry at the universe. And, Linda, I'm sure that you were angry because the people, and I'm not going to say who they were, but the people who owned Lucky before didn't know that, all right? That didn't know that he was sick. And that must make you very angry. But, that doesn't surprise me either. And I'm sure at some level it doesn't surprise you. And so the whole reason you have to come into Lucky's life is to help him at this time. I believe that. I don't think it's a coincidence, Linda. I'm sending you a huge hug, and you too, Andy, but I don't think it was a coincidence. Yeah, Linda's saying the vet said better a week early than a day late. Yes, to have not known would be terrifying for you afterwards. And so you look at it and you go through this sort of like denial and then anger and then huge sadness, all right? And expect to cry a lot and expect it to come in waves, All right, you'll be doing absolutely fine. Lucky is a dog, a border collie that she just rescued from an abusive home a couple of weeks ago. Yes, Linda, and that would be quite normal, all right, because you're not a selfish person. Because you're not a selfish person, your concentration will be on helping Lucky. Once Lucky has passed, then you will get good and angry, and expect to get good and angry. But also, Linda, start working out what you're going to do with that anger, because you don't want to hit people near you. You know, when I say hit, I don't mean physically, but I mean, think about what you're going to do with that anger. Maybe start writing, journaling right now to get everything that's going on in your mind. It's amazing to me that I wanted to talk about something that was so traumatic to me, and now I've got two of you. Yes, he's still here, but they say he's probably got less than a week to live, Lee. And so I find it incredible that I made this decision to talk about Me Too this coming week. And now I've got other people in huge emotional pain as well, and in loss. So I don't believe in coincidences, as you know. So I just want to tell you that I am here. Andy, if you need to write to me, if you need me to get on a Skype or something with you, you let me know, all right? I think you know me well enough to know that I will do what I can to help you work through this if that's what you need. And Linda, you know me well enough as well. I just want to say that it's a difficult day for me as well. It's actually my mom's birthday, and so that emotionally is difficult for me. But I am sure that had she lived, she would be how old now? 100. So happy birthday, Mum. And the other thing I wanted to just to make a happy note for a moment is, I guess what I got this week. For those of you who don't know, Sean and Benji wrote their book, and Benji hand-delivered me a couple of copies this week, which is really kind of him. So I haven't started reading it because, as you know, but I've got it. So that's the main thing. You know something? Yeah. And by the way, it's already a bestseller, Andy. And it's on Amazon. All right. I'm just holding it up so you can write down the title. It's on Amazon, and it's already an Amazon bestseller, just so that you know. Be careful what you say there, Linda. Linda's saying, and I would warn you all about this, when you're in grieving and angry, just be a little bit careful. Lucky, she says, Lucky has sat with me with his head on my knee, listening to it all. And Lucky, if you can hear me, honey, we love you. And be at peace. She says, I love this little guy so much. Knowing his fate is killing me. Linda, I need you to stop saying that. Because you understand that if you keep repeating that, it will become true. And I don't want that. And we don't want to lose you as well. All right. So, okay to say knowing his fate is so difficult for me to cope with, that is more truthful of this moment. Do you understand the difference, Linda? Yeah, not only did he write it, but he hand-delivered it. And unfortunately, I was not able to take delivery of it at the time. So I will obviously be sharing it with a couple of people. Wow. So the first quote for today. 21 minutes I'm going to do it. I'm going to move straight on to doing the soul work because I think it'll help everybody. And so, you know, we can continue to talk, but let's do it around the process so that we can sort of keep everybody with us. The first thing I would really recommend is to be in the present, all right? If you can, for a little bit, just be in the present, Linda. You know, you can go back to being in that other place in a moment. And that is actually the first quote. It says, confine yourself to the present. Linda, try not to go into, you know, how sad it is or whatever. Just, what can I do to make him more comfortable? What can I do to make him know he's loved right now? What can I do to be selfless? And I know that you're very good at that. And the other thing is, what can I do to make sure that I do not punish those around me with my sadness? Because I know you've got other responsibilities in the house. So confine yourself to the present. How many of you know that is really difficult? Well, Katie, I'm delighted that you have read it already. And they actually sent me the Kindle version, but I'm in Canada and it wouldn't let me open it because of copyright reasons, apparently. So I actually said, I'm just telling you this because I want you to know that I wasn't able to open it. Yeah, I'm sure that it's a very quick and read and full of great tips. And I actually looked to see if they had visuals in it, which they don't. And I was quite sad about that. Because I really felt that what's so easy for them is, you know, some people, there are two sorts of learners, you know, those that can read things and people who can see things. And so you know, but I guess in a way, all the stuff that they've done on YouTube is a visual, so that also helps. But I keep telling them when I see them is, you know, be very careful, because it's so easy for you guys to now not realize that where the rest of us are, you left so long ago, you know, that talking in normal language is getting more and more difficult for them just because of the advanced stage that they're at. And, you know, it's strange. I look at, you know, we are now at, you know, over 1,100,000 viewers, I think. Let me just have a look at that. And the reason I say that is because it's so easy to forget, you know, where you've come from, whence you've come, if you like, you know, and I can still remember what it felt like to get my first 1,000 viewers. And the strange thing to me is that getting 10,000 felt the same and getting 100,000 felt the same. All right, yes, we're up to 1,118,000. And, you know, this is the like, you know, I'd love to tell you that I'm rich and famous from it, and I'm not. But boy, am I happy I did it. And I didn't do it the money route, as you know. I did it because I wanted to help. So my focus has always been on just doing the work. Okay, so let me move on with this. The next quote that I have is this one. Seek always for the answer within. Be not influenced by those around you, by their thoughts or their words. So for those of you, that sounds like a little contradictory when we are trying to help somebody who is in a grieving mode. But that's why I asked, what can we do to help? Because the most important thing I believe that we can do to help our friends is actually to ask them, how can we help? Beth, I know you're listening at work, and I wondered if I could tell your devastating story. Wow, Linda, that is so kind of you to say that. Linda's saying you have made me rich. And I know what you're saying. And it's not this rich. It is, rich in your soul. And that is really amazing. So seek always for the answer within. Be not influenced by those around you, by their thoughts or their words. And I think that's, I always say to people who are going through grieving, it's going to take your time, not somebody else's. If anybody says, oh, you need to get over it now and move on, that means that they don't understand your speed. My comment about this has always been your speed is the right speed for you. Your speed is the right speed for you, whether it takes you a year, 6 months, a week, 10 years. I really do believe that we will grieve for as long as we need to. And when we're good and ready, we will start moving on. I noticed, to my surprise, I've always been a dog person. And when Bean passed, I thought I would have another dog within the year. And it's been 6 years, I think, nearly. 5 or 6 anyway. And so, this is like, wow. So here's the thing. It doesn't matter what you're going through. Listen to yourself. Listen to your pain. Don't run away from it either, Linda and Andy. When I say don't stuff it, okay? The other thing not to stuff is the anger. So when that anger starts to come up, make sure you've got a safe person you can vent to. And Linda, you can just give me a heads up and I will be there. Wow. And Andy, you too. Linda's saying, can I repeat that, Linda? Because that's pretty important stuff. And I'd rather check with you and be doubly sure that I can repeat that. You are not the first person that's got that going on at the moment. We have another viewer going on. Okay, so Linda says, wow, this is a emotion-packed day. Linda says her dad, now, over the fact that she's dealing with Lucky, she says her dad made contact after 14 years. I couldn't have dealt with it if I hadn't had your advice. Wow, it's my pleasure, Linda. I'm not sure what advice helped you. Yes, Lee is quoting the road less traveled. I want to tell you that that's Scott Peck, right, Lee? I just want to make sure that I've got the right author for people. Pretty sure it's Scott Peck. I'll hit the send button as soon as Lee confirms it to me. Yep, okay. Not an easy read, Lee, but I agree with you. I'm actually delighted that it's required reading in the senior year of a Catholic school, yeah. And to me, I've actually quoted his book a number of times during the broadcasts. There are a couple of people that I always recommend people read. One is, funny enough, to check out Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in terms of loss, but also I quote a couple of other people. Yes, Beth, I can tell them your story. Wow, okay. Okay, so Linda's saying, you gave me enough advice that I could be myself and feel comfortable with my views, thoughts, and feelings. Wow, that is a huge compliment. And that tells me that, doing what we do is really important, even when we don't realize it for people. So big hugs for you. I'm just... Wow, it wasn't, but it was 30 years ago and assigned by one of the last of the strict nuns. Good for her. She gave you a gift. Yeah, I went to a high Anglican school, which is as close to a Catholic school as you can get without being Catholic. So I understand the nun thing. And you'll excuse me that I was not sure that I'm none the better for it, and it got to be a bit of a habit. I'm trying to make light of it, but the nuns were very amused by me. I'm still trying to work out why I amused them so much. They kept saying to me that I was a real dichotomy for them because they knew that I was a natural born leader of people, and yet they couldn't give me the head girl position at school because they knew all the antics I was up to. You know what I mean? And so they kept saying to me, we know you have great influence over people, and but we can't make you head girl because of the naughty things you've been doing. And I hope some of you are chuckling about that and can imagine that to be true. I was actually scared of heights, but at night I was leading a band of people across the roofs of the school, and they knew that. I think when I look back at it, that the most difficult nuns in a way were the ones that taught me a great deal. And I had a couple that were really compassionate of what had happened to me and, the things I'm going to talk about, and did that very privately and helped me a great deal. So just be aware, right, that all this is meant to happen. All right, so Linda's saying she's meeting him. You're meeting him next March? Yeah, so Lee also was raised high Anglican. So, it really is, for all of you who are history buffs, how did the Anglican Church get started? Anybody know? We'll turn it into a history lesson. I'm pretty sure at least one of you knows the answer to this one. Yes, well done, Lee. King Henry VIII wanted a divorce, and the Catholic Church, of course, in those days didn't allow divorce. Today, they allow annulments, but they didn't allow divorce. Anyway, so what King Henry VIII did was he started a new church called the Anglican Church, which was very much like Catholicism, but it allowed divorce. It was just like, duh. Talk about abuse of power. But that's what he did. And that's why we have the High Anglican Church in England. And I guess around the world. All right, so here we go. And still trying to see, I'm very hesitant with the Beth thing. Jody, did you happen to see if Beth double confirmed that I could talk about what happened to her today? Because if not, I can talk to her during the week, because I would like to be able to talk about it when I'm doing the cognitive therapy stuff. All right, so man cannot discover new oceans until he has the courage to lose sight of the shore. All right, so here is the thing. How many of you understand that you cannot move forward unless you're prepared to let go of the past? I've always said that you cannot climb a ladder unless you're prepared to let go of the weight on one foot, right? Can any of you imagine that? You're climbing a ladder. You can't go higher. Yeah, I didn't see the double confirm either, and I want to make sure I get that one right. But you cannot go a rung higher unless you let go of one foot of balance. And so how many of you know that, right? A man cannot discover new oceans unless he loses sight of the shore. If you're always staying safe, you cannot grow. And I'm thinking about Bernice, who is doing the same as I am. She's downsizing and moving into a very small fifth wheel. When I say a very small fifth wheel, a dirty great fifth wheel, but very small after being in an apartment, or in my case, being in a big house. And so sometimes we don't know whether we're going to be able to cope. We don't know what that's going to do to us psychologically. We don't know what's going to happen to us. But we have to do, the only way you can find out is to lose sight of the shore. You need to travel on. Yes, thank you, Linda. Linda's saying, oh, Biggie Sal, you said that years ago with me. You said that I can't go forward until the past is accepted. Yes, you have to learn to let go of the past. When I say let go of it, you don't have to forget it. But you have to, I hate to say that because that's a control word, but if you choose to let go of the past, you can move forward a little bit more. And, the other part of it is that if you stay in the past, it will continue to hurt you. If you continue to be in the present is today. What can I control today? Not how angry do I want to be about yesterday. Not how, Beth, not how somebody else's hate and sickness, wants to spoil your life. You don't have to buy into that. All right. This is me, this is my life, and this is my today. Like Lucky, we don't know if we've got a tomorrow. All right. So, and I've always said to you guys that you presume that I'm going to be gone before you, but that may not be true. So if you don't become very aware that being in the present is where you need to be, and if you can do that, because whatever has happened before has gone, whatever is coming up, you have no idea about, right? And so the only place we can be happy is in the present. And if you can stay in the present, you will be happy, right? You'll be happy that you woke up this morning. You'll be happy that you've got another week with Lucky, if you're lucky. You will be grateful, that you had time with your friend. And it's really important that you see that. All right, now here's a quote from a yogi, and he says, I do not expect anything from others, so their actions cannot be in opposition to the wishes of mine. Wow, that's a really good one, right? I do not expect anything from others. Beth, I thought about you as I read that, because I think that you have learned this lesson, not to expect anything from other people. You see, when you let go of the expectation from others, then they cannot disappoint you. Katie, I saw your question to me, which is, how's the trailer shopping going? I'm just about to write another reminder to the people that are selling it to me, because they're not in a hurry. This is not going to happen until March, but I'd still like to have this in writing. Hi, Charlotte. Good to see you. So how many of you agree with that? Which is, when we let go of our expectations of others, they don't disappoint us. And by the way, what about letting go of our expectations of ourselves? Ah, yes, Linda. All right. Linda's saying, but Sal, not expecting could be from being let down. Well, that's the lesson we learn. We are very fortunate, Linda. Right? We're very fortunate that we've learned that lesson, be it the hard way, but we've learned the lesson. Well, Beth, Beth's saying we're grateful for Sal and friends. Well, we're grateful to have you too, Beth. So Beth, while you're typing now, do I get a double okay on telling your story? Right. Charlotte is a runner, and she's saying, as a runner, I just go with it. Adventures come from each run, race, and moments. Yes. Charlotte trains to run and then enjoys the run. She doesn't, if she beats her previous time, she's happy, but, it's not the be all and end all. Okay, no problem, Marie. Good to see you here. All right. Yeah, I was saying to somebody who plays Word with Friends with me, and that person I was playing, and I did a really good word on a triple word and everything else. And it wasn't Beth, it wasn't you, and it wasn't Jody or anybody. But anyway, what happened was when I did it, the person immediately resigned. And I actually wrote back to them and said, why did you do that? Well, there was no way I could win. And I said, you know something? I don't play Words with Friends to win. I play it for the joy of playing it and doing the best I can. And therefore, if I lose, and I play some people that are obviously a lot better than I am, and I don't worry about the fact that I'm losing. I worry about what can I do and what can I learn. And, and that's my enjoyment, which is, oh, look at that. And so to me, I think it's really important. Yeah. So to me, it's not whether you beat me hands down, or whether I beat you. It's about, did you learn something? Did you enjoy the game? Did you enjoy using your mind? For me, using my mind at my age is very important. Wow. Hi, Kim. This is a big one. Your questions indicate the depth of your belief. Look at the depth of your questions. Okay. I've got to really thank Jody for a second, because even though I knew I was going to go into post-traumatic triggers listening to the Kavanaugh hearings, Jody stayed with me nearly the whole day. And when I say nearly the whole day, I mean she did, and into the night. And what I found really interesting was the questions that I kept asking. But, what I couldn't explain all the time was the things that were happening that I was reacting to. I think I spoke about some of them, but I didn't get a real chance to talk about all of them because I was being triggered. So that was okay, thanks, Beth. So that was very important. And the reason that I want to do the broadcast is I want you to know where I believed her and why, from my own experience, what I watched her body language do and why that meant a lot to me. And why I thought I had totally processed it all until I watched her. And then I knew, whoa, there were some bits in there that I had forgotten. And the one that really got me, the one that triggered me just like that, was when she said, I heard them laugh at me. It was amusing to them. I want to tell you, that hit me so hard. It was amazing. Because I have heard that laughter. So, when she said that, I had no doubt in my mind that she'd been through what she's been through. No doubt. Now, by the way, I just want to say this, seeing as I'm talking about it, but I also, somewhere at a deep level, wonder whether they're both telling the truth. I don't mean that Judge Kavanaugh didn't do it necessarily, and we will find that out. But I really believe that he believes that he didn't. You know what I mean? At some level. Yeah, Linda's saying she also knows that laughter. Yeah, Linda, that's why I'm going to be doing some work on it this week, because I think, we've got a couple of people that may need to know what to do. And so that's why I want to tell my story. And I know I've got a couple of viewers who will probably want to tell theirs if they want to or not, and that is fine. I don't need anybody else to tell their story just because I'm going to tell mine. I want to make sure that that is clear for all of you. Right. So, the secret of making something work in your lives is, first of all, the deep desire to make it work. Then the faith and the belief that it can work. And then to hold that clear, definite vision into your consciousness and see it working out step by step without one thought of doubt or disbelief. And what does that bring up for anybody? The secret of making something work in your lives is, first of all, the deep desire to make it work. Then the faith and belief that it can work. And then to hold on to a clear, definite vision in your consciousness and see it working out step by step and without one thought of doubt or disbelief. Kim, what are we talking about? We're just doing soul stuff. We talked a little bit about, we found out that very sadly, Linda's new dog, to her Lucky, is actually dying of cancer and isn't expected to last more than a week. And that Andy has just lost a friend to a heroin overdose. And I talked a little bit about the fact that I'm going to be doing a couple of broadcasts about post-traumatic stress and how the Kavanaugh hearings affected me and what I did about it. And also what helped me. And those will probably happen next Friday. Yeah, may God bless them both. As I said, I actually believe they could both be telling the truth. I think it's very possible that Kavanaugh has no memory of it. Did any of you hear her say that is imprinted in my hippocampus? You see, if it's imprinted, I have a number of things imprinted in my hippocampus, and I don't think he does. You know, I really don't think that it had a memory for him necessarily. Now, I do know for a fact, unfortunately, that he told lies because some of the words that he gave explanations to were absolutely, totally ridiculous. You know, the spoofing and what was the other thing? Devil's Triangle, those sort of things. He lied about those. And so, you know, it might not have been something he wanted to discuss on international television, but you know something? He had sworn an oath at the beginning. I would have been a lot happier with him if he had said, you know something, I was a real drunk. And I was illegally drinking. And I am so sorry for whatever I might have done that I don't remember. I don't know why. To me, that would have been better. Actually, Sarah, it isn't. In terms of what they were talking about, the Devil's Triangle, to be honest, is a three-way, two guys and a woman together. Just so you know. So there were a number of things that he talked about that I think he could have told the truth on, and he definitely didn't. And that worried me a little bit, to say the least. But I do believe that he probably thinks that he didn't do it because he can't remember it. So here we go. Life is full and overflowing with the new. But it is necessary to empty out the old before we can make room for the new to enter. Yeah, for those of us, there's part of me that goes, the downsizing. you know, you have to get rid of old stuff to be able to free up your life a bit and make room for a new way of life. I'm thinking about other things that really we have to just be aware that holding on to all the baggage doesn't make us light enough to be able to move forward. We just get stuck in the past. Now, I don't think, I'm not going to tell anybody that your past doesn't stay with you to some degree, because it does. The scars, I think, will always be there. I don't care. I've done a lot of work on my stuff, and I don't care how much work I've done. It's still there. Excuse me, the tapes are still in my mind. A look can trigger them, a voice tone, whatever. You know, it's implanted, as she said. But, you know, the thing is this, that I realized that I didn't have to let it control the rest of my life. I was aware that I had the experiences. Not that I was happy about them, but they didn't need to control the rest of my life. I could move on and do things. And, you know, part of me goes, I wonder whether the fact that I chose to help people so much in my life was because of that understanding of having had traumatic things happen to me in my life. And one of the things I'm going to be investigating this week is, because I believe that all the helplines are being getting an awful lot of calls. I intend this week to actually contact a couple and see if they need some help, because I realize I have the skill and I have the ability maybe to help other people in a direct way at my local crisis lines. And so I'm going to be making that call. So well, thank you, Linda. Linda's saying, you taught me how to accept what has happened and to move forward. Not only that, Linda, but you also hopefully could see that you chose this part of your life as well, right? That you're making, you made some very interesting choices. Sounds like condescending, and I don't mean that at all. You know that. But you chose to do work that most people would not choose to do. And I have great what's the word? Feelings for your courage. There's a word I want, and it'll come to me. All right, so Kimmy's saying, everybody tells me to forget and get on. It's hard when you don't have closure. Yes, it is a choice, Sarah. You know, we have to choose to move on. It's not that you have to. You know, if you've listened to any of our broadcasts, you will know that I will stop people when they tell me what they have to do, or I have to do this. If they say that, I'll say, no, you don't have to. You can choose to, but you don't have to. Because I think it's really important for people to see that the way that we heal, the way that we move on with our lives, is that we realize we have choice every single day. Right? We have choice. I could have chosen not to listen to the Kavanaugh hearings, and because I knew it was going to trigger me, or I was pretty sure that there was something in there that was going to trigger me again. But I chose to watch it. I woke up after only 3 hours sleep to watch it, because I knew I needed to see it in its entirety. For me, all right, I needed to see whether I believed her or whether I didn't. You know something? How many of you did watch it? Let me just find that out. How many of you saw some of it or whatever? One of the things that I said to myself, I probably said this earlier, was when I was able to find a fair amount of compassion for him, was when I decided, okay, fine, I'm through the worst of the process. Yeah, Sarah watched it all as well. You know what I did is, when I watched him, I'm a great believer in turn the mirror. And I just want to ask those of you who understand this stuff a little bit. How many of you saw how frustrated he was and how angry he was that he was being judged and unfairly in his view? All right. Now, the fact that he lied, I'm going to put that aside for a second, but how many of you saw the emotion he had and the frustration he had about people destroying his character, his reputation, and that of his family? How many of you saw that at any point? And the reason I ask that question is because I ask you to do the same as I have done. Have you ever in your life been that angry because somebody was defaming your character? Somebody was telling stuff that you believed to be untrue. You see, I had it happen to me, and when I saw that going on, I had to turn the mirror and say, have I ever been that angry? And did I look as as unhinged, as to use the word that's being used? Yes, I've done that. So do you understand that at some level when I saw that, regardless of what I believed about him, I had to say, I don't think that he necessarily thinks he did it. But what I did remember, and I'm going to remember, is, boy, when you get that angry and you get that into it, it doesn't really, the viewer doesn't necessarily relate to you. And I thought that was a good lesson. I don't know if any of you understand what I'm trying to say here. That I got to see what I look like when I get that frustrated and that angry about something. That, hey, you're not listening to me, and I didn't do this, or you're not listening to me. I've asked you 16 times, and you're still not doing it. And so, to me, I tried to take as much as I could of that and turn it around. Kimmy, we're not sure what he did. He is being investigated as to whether he was a sexual predator at school and a drunk, quite honestly, which is the other part of it. So here is another great quote that we can think about, okay, as it's Sunday. The more you depend on forces outside yourself, the more you are dominated by them. So I don't know what that brings up for you. Let me read it again. The more you depend on forces outside of yourself, the more you are dominated by them. What does that bring up for any of you? Yes, Kimmy, and this is going on in the US because he is he was about to get voted onto the Supreme Court, and there was a huge movement to try and stop that. So I look at that quote and I say, I think a lot of people wait for other people to make them happy, and you've heard me say that many, many times. That we have to make ourselves, we may choose to make ourselves happy. But, to wait for somebody else to do that for you is giving the other person too much responsibility. Thanks, Jody. So, if you want to, I always say this to people as well, that people will come to me and they say, yeah, but I really want to do this, that, and the other. And I go, well, have you done it? Well, no. What are you waiting for? And 9 times out of 10, people are waiting for other people to do it. I haven't been for a walk because I'd like somebody to go with me. I haven't done a new hobby because I want a friend to go with me. Do any of you understand what I'm talking about? That we actually abrogate, if you like, we give away our responsibility by saying it's somebody else's job to, we need somebody else to be there for us to do this. And so, I think about, anything that we give an excuse for, right? It's about we're waiting for somebody else to do something for us to be able to do it. And that is sad, but it's human nature in a lot of cases. And so part of what I like to think about on Sundays is let's sort of do a little rewind of our brains and let's be accountable this week. And just everything, what are you going to do to get it done? Or stop whining about it. I saw something funny enough that Sean Cannell put up this week that I found interesting. And I hadn't seen it before. And I'm sorry that I didn't take a screenshot of it. But it had to say about the fact that when we badmouth others, when we try to manipulate a situation so that people see our side instead of the other person's side or whatever, that is in itself a sin. For those of you who happen to be Catholic, am I correct in that? I just want to make sure I understand this, that just because we're feeling badly about stuff doesn't give us the right to make other people bad. Other people are just being who they are, and they haven't had the value of your learning or understanding. Yeah, but Katie, I had to think about that because, it's me. And I turned the mirror and went, oh, yeah, I've done that. All right. I don't mind admitting that I have done that. Not with the intention necessarily of making the other person wrong, or was it? I've got to look at it. It's a very difficult one to look at. So does anybody else other than Katie relate to this, where you've tried to, maybe you said, I don't know about so-and-so, I'm not sure I can trust them. And really, that's an interesting thing. And unfortunately, I must admit, when I first saw Brett Kavanaugh, I said that. And just by his body language and the way he moves his mouth, and it was not a fair judgment because I know nothing about the man. But boy, I want to tell you, there was so much about him that I didn't trust. And I have to try and work out whether this was my inner red flags going off, or whether, and I hadn't heard the story then. But, it was interesting because I literally remember saying, I don't know what it is about this man, but I don't trust him. And I'm going, why did I do that? What was it that I didn't, and I believe at some level I saw something that I've seen before that I didn't trust, or it was proven to not to be trustworthy. But I do realize that this is not a good place to be, because when you don't trust people, I don't know. That's a difficult one. I need to talk about that. How many of you have trusted people that have ended up hurting you? And I don't mean a little bit, I mean have really hurt you. And this is a problem that has stuck with me from the days of being at school. And I was at boarding school with the nuns, because of the issue about turn the other cheek. And, I heard that loud and clear when I was doing, being taught by the nuns. I remember this turn the other cheek was very big for me for some reason, that I needed to forgive people. And I got it very wrong. And yeah, so Kimmy relates to it, and so does Katie. So where do you find that balance? Where do you find the balance of, trust everybody or only trust them to a certain level? What do you think? And by the way, I have subsequently found out that this turn the other cheek did not mean what I thought it meant, that I must, without fail, forgive everybody for whatever they did to me. It meant if they come to me and ask for forgiveness, that I can forgive them, but I don't have to forgive. And I want to make that statement because I really had it wrong for so long. And it caused me a lot of trouble in my life. It is hard to trust. Just anybody who's been through any sort of a trauma, especially an assault of any sort, it is very hard to trust. That's the thing that gets broken, is your trust of people. And so, anybody that's been through, I think anybody who's been through a divorce will tell you it takes a long time for them to trust again. Anybody that's been through a breakup that they didn't expect, that they thought everything was going fine. Anybody who's been left at the altar, anybody, I can think of all sorts of situations where you're going, it takes a long time to be able to trust again. And what has to happen, if I can say this, what has to happen is that we need to be able to say not everybody is like this person. And it is time for me to choose to let the other people show a better side of themselves. And so that's why it takes time. We have to choose to move past it and give other people a chance again. So I don't want to make this such a sad Sunday. So let me ask you something, Linda. What could you do in the coming days that will bring you some joy with Lucky as opposed to sadness? Is there anything you can think of that you could do? Because if not, let me give you some suggestions. And if Andy is still here, Andy, is there anything you can do to bring yourself some joy this week? And so that you can balance out the obvious sadness. It is really important that process that you can, and we are responsible for doing it. Nobody else. So, Kimmy, let's move on. So let there be more joy and laughter in your living. All right, this is really important that we bring it in, and we are responsible for bringing it in. So how can we be happier this week? What do we need to do? I took a step forward in doing something in artwork. I kept showing you the sand and saying, I want to do a piece of art with real sand on it. Well, okay, Katie. Bye-bye, sweetie. Well, I started it, but the funny thing was it doesn't look the way I expected it to. And it was really quite funny because I'm going, that's not how I expected it to look. And I found that really interesting. Yes, stay busy and do things that make you happy. Yes, that's a very important thing. And so what are you thinking of doing this week that will make you happy? Okay, Jody, good to see you back. So what are you going to do to make yourself happy, Kim? And Jody, what do you plan to do this week to make yourself happy? And Jody, I was just talking about the piece of art. Do you want to see how far I got with that piece of art? With the sand. I was just saying that it was really funny. I did it, but it didn't make me as happy as I thought it was going to. Yeah, okay, hang on a sec. So, Kim, if you're not sure, then you won't be happy. Get your closet organized, yes, or pick one, maybe just your tops. This week you're going to bake a treat for Lionel. That's good. Okay, so here you go. Here is the sand. Now, this took me 2 days, and it's incredibly heavy. And I'm almost scared to do the next bit. Now, the reason it took 2 days is because it didn't sit properly. Yeah, you can see the texture for sure. Now, what I need to do is I need to seal it all first. I'm waiting for it to dry. I'm going to seal it all first, but you see these little bits in between? I actually sprayed it with paint to try and get a bit more depth to it in places. So it was quite a business. It wasn't nearly as easy as I thought it was going to be. And by the way, the mess was incredible. But did I do it? Yes. So there's part of me that goes, give yourself a bonus point for doing it. Right? And so now the next thing is paint over it, and who cares? This was an experiment. Right? And I've got to go back to doing experiments. I haven't painted for pleasure in a long time. Yeah, I know, Jody. Why was it so scary, though? And, what was it about it that I ended up going, well, it doesn't look like I imagined it to? And the thing is that I think it looked heavier, and it is heavy. I can't tell you how heavy it is. And so the other thing I had to do was think about how am I going to get all the bits off the back, because that's going to scratch somebody's wall. So, yeah, I'm thinking that even though this was really fine sand, right? This was not thick sand, it was fine. It needs to be even finer. That's what I realized. It looked like it was pretty fine, but it needs to be even finer to do it. But I'm going to keep going. And Jody, feel free to push me on that one. Because until I play with it a bit, how am I going to get good at it? And so that's the important part of it. So, Jody, what are you planning to do to be happy? You're going to bake something for Lionel that will make you happy. What are you going to do for yourself? What is the artwork going to be? Is that what you're asking? It's going to be a seascape. Yeah, it's going to be a seascape. And because, Kimmy, because it already has texture, I'm actually going to be putting structure on it too. So, you know, in the waves, I'm going to make the waves stand up a bit as well, because it already has texture. Does that make sense? So that's what I'm going to be doing next, is sealing this so that this doesn't fall off. I'm going to be sanding the back of it so it doesn't scratch a wall. And then I will start building up the waves, and then I will paint over that buildup. That's what the plan is. And maybe sometime in the next 5 years, I'll get it finished. And I thought I'd let you know that for dinner tonight, I'm doing a spaghetti pie. Have any of you ever done that? So, you know, you actually use the spaghetti like a pastry in a pie, and then you bake it. I've got the sauce busy cooking at the moment, and yeah, and what I've done is I took some wine pizza sauce, but into that I put turkey and a little bit of bacon, and then chopped up every vegetable I had in my fridge. Just a little bit of this, you know, a little bit of celery, a little bit. Oh, I haven't put the tomatoes in. They'll probably go on top somewhere. But, you know, I've done all of that. And then, actually, it's got a lot of tomato in it already, because it's the red wine pizza sauce anyway. But then what I'm going to do is put it in a baking dish, but I'm going to use the spaghetti as like a base, like a crust, and then put all the sauce on top and cheese on top of that, and then bake it at a pretty high heat. So hopefully some of that spaghetti will get crispy. I don't know about you, there's something about crispy spaghetti that's really very tasty. So I've got to remember to oil the pan first, because that'll help it get crispy. But it's like, yeah, makes it very tasty. So that's what I'm up to for dinner. All right, any other questions on this one? I want to tell you, on the downside, I have bits of sand everywhere. I didn't do it in my art room. I did it on my dining room table, and there was a reason for that I can't remember. But I also did it in a big container, and, you know, the container looks almost ruined. What I have done, which probably will surprise you, is I took, hang on, I got to show you. And this made me laugh, because this is so typically me. You know, a lot of where the sand and glue, because I sort of mix sand and glue together to do this. What I did is I had quite a few, you know, pretty big chunks of sand and glue that were left over. And what I did was I put them in a bottle, and I keep rinsing the water out of the bottle, and I've nearly got all the glue out of it now. And so what I will do, once I can get clear water, which I still haven't got to, you can see that, I will then let it dry and put it back for the next time. But I still have a lot that I've got to get off the thing that I was doing. But it's like, why do I do that? Why do I do it? This cost me $1.50, and I am busy spending a week making sand. Plus, I could go down to the beach and go and get myself some. I mean, mind you, the sand near my beach, or my beach, is dark. It's not light. But if you want to know, that's what I do. That's why I end up with so much. How do I buy my art? The canvases? The paints? Which part of it? Okay, so forget, I'm not trying to be awkward here, Kimmy. To me, art is the finished product. All right? So the supplies, are you trying to find out where do I buy my supplies, or where do I... Yeah, how do I buy it? I don't buy it. How do I sell it? Is that what you're asking? Okay, so if you're asking how do I sell it, not how do I buy it, because buying it means that I see this piece and I pay money for it. Well, I don't pay money for it because I made it myself. I don't pay money for this. Okay, I have a store on my website. At DearMamaSal.com. One of the tabs is the shop, and the shop has some of my artwork in it. Not all of it, but some of it. And, along with some magnets and pendants and things like that. So thanks, Jody. All right, so I'm trying to think how best to close this off, because this has been, a difficult broadcast in a lot of ways, but the good news is we managed to do one. So what I'm going to be doing is doing some work towards doing these 2 broadcasts on Friday. One will be what happened to me, and the second one will be more about how to process when something happens to you. Does that make sense? And what I physically did to help myself dig out from under when I got triggered. Because again, I think that we just don't spend enough time telling people how to help themselves get out of a trauma. And so I'm hoping that will help some people. My biggest fear, funnily enough, has been what happens if by talking about it, I trigger other people. And that has, been a big concern for me. But I also am pretty sure that if I talk about it, that YouTube will rank it as an adult only, adult only vlog. If that is so, then what I will do is I will talk about having done it, and that if there's anybody who is underage that needs to see it, to write to me, and I'll send them the link to it. I'll have a separate copy of it somewhere so that that has a different link that I can share with people who need to see it. It's the only thing I can think to do. My feeling being that if you have enough courage to write to me and ask for it, then you probably need it. Difficult one to call. All right, now my big confusion this week, and here is my confusion. My big confusion was, how is it possible that it's raining and I still have allergies? It's like, how can I have allergies when it's raining? And Yvonne tells me that the fact that the leaves are falling means the pollen count is up. Is that true? I got to have a look at it. She said, check the pollen count. And I'm going, you've got to be joking. It's winter. It's fall. How can that be pollen? But you can probably hear. Yeah, and that's their right. Kim saying, I think that happened to me today. I was talking about something going on, and the other person said, if you're going to talk about that, I'm leaving. Yes, and we need to give people the right to do that as well. Just hold on 1 second. I want the pollen count to see whether it's valid. And, because to me, it was just like, how can we have pollen issues? Hi, Jamie. Because I said, if it's raining, how can there be pollen? Yeah, and that's what it says. It's low. So explain to me, anybody who understands this, how can I have allergies going on with such a low pollen count? It's just like, doesn't make any sense to me at all. And Yvonne tried to convince me. Let me just see. I'm going to have a look at the 3-day. Yeah, you see the 3-day pollen count says it's low. It's all green, green, green. That's like, okay, fine. I don't understand. But you can probably hear it in my voice, and I can feel it. I got a plugged up nose. So maybe it's just the leftover flu. I don't know. It's like, I don't like it. I do know that. So I did take my antihistamines, and I'm still not feeling great. All right. So hopefully this wasn't too difficult for you guys. I realize that that's my only concern. If I do these broadcasts, they're not going to be fun broadcasts, and some of you are going to feel a great deal, and you're probably going to have difficulty watching me. So, but I still think it might help somebody, so maybe we'll just do it anyway. As you can tell, it's not something that is exciting to me, but I have to get rid of my feeling about it and think about what it may do to help somebody else, and that will make it worthwhile. So that's what I'm going to do. I hope that you have a great week. I'm going to go and make the Getty and make my spaghetti pie, which I hope will be very tasty. There's actually lots of healthy stuff about it. I've got lots of vegetables in it that are very, very finely chopped up, so they'll end up in the sauce rather than you'll be able to see them, which is a good thing. But it's going to have this bed of spaghetti and then the sauce and then cheese on top, and I think it's going to be very tasty. Yum. So have a super, super week, everybody. And thank you for understanding I couldn't do the broadcast on Friday, either of them. But I'm definitely feeling a lot safer and a lot better and a lot healthier today. So we should be fine for this week. All right, big hugs to you all. Thank you for being here. And Jody, thank you for looking after us. Always appreciate that. We will see you during the week. And if you need to get somebody to vent to or whatever, please let us know. We'll do what we can to help you. This is DearMamaSal saying big hugs, look after one another, but most of all, please remember to look after yourself. And we'll catch you next week. Bye-bye for now.